And this is actually the moment that he reveals himself as a Jedi to Toby, telling Toby that, look, you gotta hide, you gotta stay safe because something bad is coming.
You're listening to
Path of the Jedi
with your host, Ronnie Cruz.
All right, welcome to Path of the Jedi, the podcast where Star Wars meets personal development. My name is Ronnie Cruz, your host for this, relaxing adventure. Relaxing because I'm currently on vacation. Hitched the camper to the truck, and my sister and I hit the road with the dogs, right? So, having a good time. We're kind of in the, not really, yeah, we are in the middle of nowhere. So signal is spotty. As I'm recording this, I still, there's a big question as to whether or not I'm going to be able to actually upload it, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And on top of that, because I am on vacation, it's one of those situations where I'm recording on the go, recording on my travel setup, and yeah, it's going to be record, edit, and upload all in one afternoon. So hopefully I can get it done so you guys have a fresh episode to listen to this week. Another added advantage, added feature, maybe not advantage, is that there is going to be a lot of background noise. It's a little ambiance with the birds singing. There may be the occasional vehicle driving by, other campers in the vicinity that you might hear. Also, obviously airplanes sometimes go by. I can't control any of that. So yeah, just bear with me. Hopefully it will provide ambiance as opposed to distraction, but I'll try to edit as much of that out as I can if it gets to be too much. That said, let's go ahead and just dive right into this week's discussion. Today we're going to talk about Star Wars Visions Season 1, Episode 6, titled T0-B1, or as most people say, T0-B1. This is another one, right? Like, I really love this one, and I know at this point I've said that about each episode, so I should probably stop saying that, but I can't help it. It's so great. I really get so much enjoyment out of watching these episodes, these shorts. There's so much depth, there's so many layers to each one of these things. There's really a lot packed into the 15 to 20 minute running times. And so, yeah, this episode is no different. It's a complete joy to watch. On the onset, for me, I got immediate vibes of like Astro Boy. And there's also strong and I think, I'm assuming very intentional allusions to Pinocchio. Right, there's this relationship between this old gentleman, he's white beard and everything, and this little droid by the name of T0-B1, who the man affectionately calls Toby, T0-B1, right, Toby. So it's super fun already on the outset, and it might seem on the surface, or it might feel that this is a very kiddie or yeah, well, kiddie, I guess is a great word for it. It's more for the younger viewer. Well, really, again, if you can look at any of these episodes, or really anything in Star Wars, with a discerning and analytical lens, you'll see that there is so much to discover, and that there's so many different messages and themes that you can really glean from anything Star Wars. And again, this episode is no different. So we have this character, this Geppetto character, and his little droid. And the thing about Toby is that, I mean, we're used to having androids in Star Wars, in the Star Wars universe, and that's a whole completely different conversation. I think the way some audiences, or maybe even most audiences, look at the droids in Star Wars is just that they're droids with human characteristics programmed into them. And so, like I said, that's a whole nother ball of wax that I should probably discuss. And this particular episode definitely touches on that question of, droids having character, droids having consciousness and awareness, because Toby, he mentions in the beginning, actually has dreams, right? Like, he has dreams and he uses imagination. So you kind of begin to question, was he a droid? Was he a situation that was a lot like Astro Boy, where the consciousness of a little boy was uploaded into the Android. So again, not necessarily the topic that I want to dive into for this, but that definitely merits further discussion, and so we'll dive into that in a future episode. This particular episode, I want to really talk about. Well, I want to talk about his dreams, right? Like, so Toby, this little android boy, he has this dream. He's very curious. He's very inquisitive about the world around him. The only people on this planet are, well, the only real organic person on the planet is his master, well, let's just call him Geppetto, because as I said, I don't remember his name. We have Geppetto. We find out Geppetto later on is actually a Jedi, so let's just, for our purposes today, let's call him Jedi Master Geppetto, which actually would be amazing to have a character like that. Anyways, complete tangent. We have Geppetto on the island, and really it's just the rest of the occupants are androids, including T0-B1. The mission of Geppetto, and just kind of his purpose in life right now, is he wants to bring life back to dead planets. So on this particular planet that they're on, they're trying to bring plant life. It's a dead planet, so he wants to bring organic life back to the planet, by bringing rain and bringing plants, and having that, just kind of reviving. I mean, I guess you could call it terraforming, but I guess it's terraforming in a more gradual and naturalistic sense. And so that's their mission, to bring life back to the galaxy, one planet at a time. Again, another theme that comes out of this particular episode, environmentalism, right? Taking care of the planet, bringing life back to the planet. Not the topic that we're going to cover today. As I mentioned, I want to talk about Toby and the fact that he has dreams, he has aspirations. Okay, a quick aside. Finally got internet for a brief second and was able to look up our Geppetto's actual name in the show. It's actually Mitaka, Mitaka. So we can stop calling him Geppetto and call him his real name, Mitaka. So Mitaka talks to T0-B1, to Toby, refers to him as a boy the entire episode. Never really talks to him as if he was a droid or a mechanical being. Just refers to him as a boy. And what's cool is also, I don't know if you guys who have seen this episode caught it, in a scene where Toby is doing his chores. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think he's actually humming the theme to Pinocchio. So I thought that was a nice little touch. If you guys can verify whether that's the case or not, I'd really appreciate it. Hit me up on Twitter and let us know. But yeah, I mean, we have this situation where, we have this artificial boy in every sense of the word, from being a mechanical, being, with the consciousness of a boy. He thinks like a boy. He dreams and has aspirations like a boy of being this great Jedi master. And he even uses his imagination as he's going about his day doing his chores. He imagines himself wielding lightsaber and taking on bad guys. So it's such an interesting thing. He finally has this discussion with Mitaka. And interestingly enough, Mitaka doesn't actually discourage it. In fact, he encourages it, right? He doesn't say, "No, Toby, Jedi are only living organic beings. Androids can't be Jedi. Why don't you become a mechanic, or why don't you become a translator or a protocol droid?" You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't pigeonhole Toby into his own limited beliefs about what droids should be. In fact, he encourages Toby and gives him guidance, which for me, I absolutely love, right? I'm not a parent, nowhere close to being a parent. I've never been a parent. I've been an uncle, and that's maybe the closest thing, and I don't even think that compares. But I love this particular, interaction, because I imagine it being a great example of pretty good parenting. Instead of discouraging, well, okay, so what pops into my head, for those of you guys who have seen the comedian Joe Coy, the Filipino comedian, he has this whole joke about his mom shitting on his dreams of becoming a dancer and becoming a comedian. And instead, why don't you, become a mailman or a nurse, like most Filipinos, right? Right. So that bit is hilarious, and of course it is just a comedy bit. But again, it serves as a great antithesis to what the Master Mitaka is doing with Toby, right? Instead of discouraging Toby from becoming a Jedi or discouraging Toby's dreams and aspirations, he actually encourages it and gives Toby guidance. He tells Toby, well, in order to be a Jedi, you need a lightsaber, and in order to get a lightsaber, you have to find a kyber crystal, right? You have to find this thing, and only then will you become what you want to be. So Toby sets out and he searches the entire planet. He searches high and low. He literally leaves no stone unturned. Like, he's searching high and low for this thing, and he can't find it anywhere. The one place that he hasn't searched, he finally realizes the one place he hasn't searched is the place where he's not actually allowed to go, and that is the basement of the laboratory. So he goes into this basement and doesn't find a kyber crystal. But what he does find, and we learn later on that this is the reason why he's not allowed to go in the basement in the first place, he finds a starship, right? And we can assume that this is Mitaka's old starship. He's completely in awe. He's stoked about finding this starship. It's a new playground for him. So he goes into the starship, immediately goes into the cockpit, plays pretend, flicks on all the switches, turns on all the electronics. Thankfully, he didn't turn on the actual engine, right? So he doesn't end up taking off, which is good. But all the electronics are on, and because of this actually inadvertently sends out a signal into the galaxy. And unbeknownst to Toby, the signal is picked up way out in space by a Sith. Now, this Sith, we're not really sure if he's a full Sith or an Inquisitor, but either way, this individual is hunting Jedi. So he picks up on the signal that's coming from the planet, that's coming from the starship that Toby is playing in, and he starts heading towards the planet. Now, back on the planet, Mitaka finally finds Toby playing around in the starship and realizes that everything is on and that the signal is going out into the galaxy. Mitaka knows and understands that this is going to lead to trouble, and so he immediately goes into protection mode, right? Lockdown mode. And this is actually the moment that he reveals himself as a Jedi to Toby, telling Toby that, look, you gotta hide, you gotta stay safe because something bad is coming. And so he stashes Toby in a secret hidden compartment in the wall. And before closing it up and sealing it, he actually gives Toby two halves of his own lightsaber, right? So this is a lightsaber that we're assuming belonged to Mitaka, and he's now giving it to Toby for safekeeping. Now, this lightsaber doesn't have a kyber crystal in it. It's just two halves of a non-functioning lightsaber. But again, he gives it to Toby for safekeeping, telling him, look, just keep it safe no matter what you do. And then he seals the wall, leaving Toby in the dark. Some time passes. We're not really sure how long. It's never really established. But eventually, Toby is able to get out. And actually, even that, we're not sure how he was able to get out either. But he gets out eventually. And when he emerges from the secret compartment, he finds the entire laboratory, the entire facility, actually completely destroyed. Right? It's a wreck. It's in ruins. And Mitaka is nowhere to be found. He finds a pile of rocks, and you don't really know how he knows this, but he knows maybe instinctually that under these pile of rocks, it's actually the grave of Mitaka. So he makes a vow to Mitaka that he'll continue the work of bringing life back to the planet, and as a gesture of this vow, he places the two halves of the lightsaber that Mitaka had given him, that Mitaka had entrusted to him. He takes those two halves of the lightsaber and places it in the grave, under a rock, within the burial site. So Toby sets out to continue the work. He's doing the formulas, running the experiments, trying to figure out the equations. He's growing his skills, he's expanding his knowledge base, and eventually he succeeds. The plants start growing again on the planet, and it actually rains. He's able to bring back the rain. And so in fulfilling this mission, fulfilling Mitaka's dream, and fulfilling his own promise to Mitaka to continue the work, something is triggered, is awakened within him. And in this emotional sequence, in this short, what happens is a compartment opens up in Toby's chest, revealing that the kyber crystal that he had searched the entire planet for was within him the whole time. He finally finds the thing that he had been searching for, the object of his dreams and aspirations, was there the whole time within him. And so the kyber crystal emerges, gets made whole again as part of the lightsaber. And when Toby ignites the lightsaber, it actually attracts and brings the Inquisitor back to the planet. And through the battle, through his confrontation with this Inquisitor, with this Sith, Toby actually, goes through these trials and becomes a Jedi, finally becomes a Jedi. The whole point is that the thing that he had been searching for, that he thought was going to make him a Jedi, he had searched far and wide, right? He had searched all over the place, only to discover that it had resided within him the whole time. Now, of course, he had to go through some growth, right? He had to go through a learning process. He had to fulfill and finish certain tasks, gain some skills. He had to go through some loss in losing Professor Mitaka. So all of that served as a proving ground for Toby to finally discover that everything that he needed to fulfill his dreams and aspirations really resided within him. And once he discovered this thing, he could then go on and continue his work to be the Jedi that he always wanted to be. And that's the message that I want to leave with you guys. Right? Whatever dreams and aspirations you have, yes, we have to learn new skills. Yes, we have to accumulate and gain more knowledge and experience. All that is incredibly important, right? And all of those things can be found externally through vocation, through education, through life experience. But the most important things that you need in order for you to fulfill your dreams and aspirations, the dedication, the commitment, the perseverance, the steadfastness in believing in that dream in the first place, all of that resides within you. It's there, and it's always been there. And if you can really, really learn to tap into it, you, like Toby, can become whatever version of a Jedi you want to be. All right, well, that is going to do it for today's episode. So hopefully it's not too scatterbrained. I feel completely ADD out here. There's a lot of distractions. I know I am in the middle of the woods, but there's vehicles going by, other campers setting up camp, dogs barking. There's a guy over here. He's splitting his firewood, so I have to stop every 2 minutes for him to stop chopping and record in between. So hopefully, like I said, I was able to stitch together a cohesive episode for you guys. Let me know what you think. Do you like T0-B1? Do you like this episode of Star Wars Visions? What do you think about having dreams and aspirations, right? Like I think that's a conversation that I have often with people, whether they're part of my profession of network marketing or not, especially with my nieces and nephews of that generation, trying to figure out what they, they're in that transition part of life where they're trying to figure out what they want to do, at least for the next handful of years, right? And what path to follow. I think, it's an important conversation because no matter what stage of life you're in, there's always a fork in the road, and there's always new paths to follow, and making those decisions really, this is part of that conversation, right? Do you follow your dreams and aspirations and continue to chase after the things that you want out of life, or do you go towards something more practical? And for me, it's not even a question, right? Because what seems practical really may not be practical. right? It just seems on the surface practical. So I encourage everybody to be more like Toby, but that's just me, right? That's just me. And that's why I want to hear your guys' feedback on this. What do you guys think? Hit us up on our Twitter or our Facebook. It's at POTJ Podcast. If you're not already following us, especially on Twitter, I'm trying to be a lot more active on Twitter, and you know, there's a lot of conversation and engagement. I'm connecting with a lot of other podcasters and a lot of other people on Twitter. So yeah, hit us up on Twitter. Of course, you can always email us if you want to send us a message or even an MP3. I'd love to play an MP3 here on the show. Send your thoughts and your reflections on today's episode to info@pathofthejedi.com with the title of this particular show and episode in the subject heading. Yeah, like I said, I'd love to hear your thoughts and reflections. Let's get some more conversation going. As a reminder, if you haven't yet plugged into our communities that we have on Facebook, we have a Path of Growth community as well as the Run Ronnie Run Club community. One is dedicated to personal development. Of course, Run Ronnie Run is dedicated to health and fitness. So if you're looking for support, if you're looking for a community to tap into for either or both of those things, please feel free to find them on Facebook. It's facebook.com/group/path of growth, and then facebook.com/group/Run Ronnie Run. Those are amazing, and yeah, we'd love to have you on there on those communities. Last and certainly not least, it's time for this week's shout out. All right, this week's shout out goes to Jan, Dominic, and Ben Anderson. That's right, Jan and Ben of the Star Bros podcast. I connected with these individuals on Twitter, actually, through their Star Bros podcast Twitter account, and as a result, I started listening to the show and found myself really enjoying it. It's such a great show, very fun, lighthearted, and incredibly insightful too. They just recently, I think their most recent episode as of this recording, did a life lessons of the Book of Boba Fett episode. And you guys know, for those of you guys who follow our show here at Path of the Jedi, that's my jam. I absolutely love that kind of stuff. And they did an amazing job breaking down Book of Boba Fett and the different lessons that we could glean from it that could help us in our day-to-day lives and in our growth journeys. So definitely check that out, guys. You know, I haven't given a shout out to a fellow podcaster in quite some time, actually. And so, you know, if you're looking for a new show to listen to, if you're looking for especially a Star Wars podcast to listen to, go check out Star Bros podcast. Check out Jan and Ben. Sorry about that, Jan. Jan and Ben. It's an absolutely great podcast. And on top of that, I actually wanted to give them a shout out because they recently were so kind to gift me a Star Bros t-shirt, right? Like a Star Bros t-shirt, completely undeserving. I didn't do anything special to earn it other than to tweet that I was listening to their show, and they were so kind to send me as a gift a Star Bros t-shirt. So I'm going to post a picture of me wearing that t-shirt on my Twitter, so be on the lookout for that in the next couple of days. But yeah, these guys are doing some great stuff in the podcasting space, in the Star Wars space, so make sure to go check them out. Make sure to go support and add the Star Bros podcast to your playlist. So with that, Jan and Ben, this week's shout out goes to you. All right, well, that's going to do it for today's episode, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I appreciate your patience with all the craziness and madness of my travel. I should be relaxing. I know I am on vacation, but I have so much fun recording these things and sharing with you guys. Well, pretty much just like dumping my brain onto the recording track for you guys to listen to. And if you guys continue to enjoy it, I'll continue making them. So yeah, tune in next week. We'll have a fresh episode next week, and I might actually do some special episodes in between then or after then, just to catch you guys up on everything that I have coming up in the next couple of months. So until all that happens, everybody, you guys take care out there. Be well, be safe, and as always, may the Force be with you.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company nor Lucasfilm Limited.
and is intended for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names and sounds and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is intellectual property of Path of the Jedi unless otherwise indicated.